The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
I am Emily Swallow, also known as the Armorer on The Mandalorian. And I'm just giving a little shout out to the Secrets of Star Wars podcast because this is the way.
You're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars, episode 81.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Hey everyone, I'm Father Andrew Kinstetter, aka Father Fett, and you're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars, where we talk about everything connected to that galaxy far, far away, including the deeper themes and meanings. Of course, just a quick reminder that you can get your own official Secrets of Star Wars t-shirt that encapsulates our philosophy of finding hope in a galaxy far, far away. They are super cool and are kind of showing up all sorts of places. My mom is very much active with this in Wyoming. So that's pretty cool. So you can get your own t-shirt and it's available in various styles and sizes at sqpn.com/merch. And, of course, we also have a cool, fun way to join the StarQuest fan club, and you can text the word StarQuest to 66866. That's text StarQuest, all one word, to 66866, and that will add you to our fan club mailing list. So this is our email newsletter, and there's some really cool things and a really cool story that came out in that recently. So you don't want to miss the newsletter because there's really some cool things that are coming out in that. Also, of course, just share the podcast on your favorite social media so that way we can get heard by more people who would be interested in hearing what we talk about. And leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts and let us know how we're doing, because that also gets us seen by more people. Today, we are discussing the 8th episode of The Bad Batch, and this one is titled Reunion. And joining me tonight on the panel is Angela Cialana.
Howdy, everybody.
Hello, hello. And it is just the two of us this evening, so we are going to just jump right into it. I felt like this was, we are episode 8 now, 8 of 16. So I feel like we've kind of hit the top of the roller coaster and we're kind of heading down the descent, the quick pace descent. But I'll let you give your impressions first, of course. What did you think of this episode?
Oh my gosh. When I finished this episode, I was on cloud 9. I was so happy. My husband was watching with me, and as soon as the, new to this series character, but not new to Star Wars, came on screen, as we were, kind of panning up, to his face, I just knew, and I was like, I was so excited. He's one of my favorite characters. So even though Omega has been kidnapped, I am so happy.
Oh, I didn't even consider those two emotions juxtaposed to each other. Do you recall, was Cad Bane ever rumored to be in this show?
So we had talked about Cad Bane possibly being on The Mandalorian originally, when the character in the boots kind of came up to Fennec, who was wounded in the desert, and people were like, oh my gosh, is it Cad Bane? That was my hope and my dream, although I didn't, I didn't put all my eggs in that basket. But people have been hoping ever since then that he would have an appearance, and it makes sense, actually, and we can maybe talk about this later, but it makes sense that they may try to incorporate Cad Bane more into the lore that is being developed right now because of The Mandalorian and because of Boba and Jango and the clones in general. So, but we can talk more about that later.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's super interesting. I will point out, if you Google the Book of Boba Fett, there's a poster floating out there right now that Cad Bane is featured pretty prominently on it. And I couldn't for the life of me figure out if that was an official Lucasfilm poster or if it was, and I'm pretty sure it's somewhat official because I've seen it all over the place. So I think that there's a strong possibility that we might see a live action Cad Bane in the Book of Boba Fett. So
and I will be a happy camper at that point.
yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah, but I guess besides Cad Bane, and all that, the episode itself was, I thought, really fantastic. The digital sets were, even though we were, geographically in a very small area, relatively, right? It was all so interesting to look at, and it was, I was just kind of in awe at how much the art department, the animators really put into creating these sets, so that we could kind of see almost like the clones' past life in a way, like going on this whole, cruiser. And yeah, I thought that juxtaposition was really interesting too, because they're kind of trying to figure out where they fit in now. And that's very much their old life. Do they go back to that? Do they try to relive some of that as soldiers, or are they this new thing now? So that was really interesting as well. So overall, yes, I am very excited. We're at that midpoint, and I just feel like we're going to pick up all this momentum as we keep going.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. This sort of picks up, as you were talking, I just was remembering I guess it was just the previous episode, Battle Scars, and that whole idea that I never framed it in this way in my head before, but the whole idea that the planet is sort of a metaphorical reflection on what's going on inside the clones, but also between the relationship between Crosshair and the rest of the squad. There's this division there, which on one hand, I mean, this is how they've set it up. And of course, we're all hoping that Crosshair gets rescued. My one sort of critique, but it's I don't even know if I would consider it a critique. It wasn't as emotionally charged as I thought maybe it could be. And the only reason that I say that is because we know that Crosshair is not doing this out of his own free will. So, the episode is called Reunion. So, Crosshair and the squad have that reunion happen within the episode, but it's less of a, you were my friend and you betrayed me, and more of a, Crosshair, you don't know what you're doing, and we want to rescue you. And so, we're all on board with that. But it's just a different emotional space than if you have a friend who you were super close with that has gone down a different road, and so the squad isn't dealing with that kind of an emotion, but they are dealing with just wanting to rescue their friend. So, but it fits the story. I mean, that's what they're doing, and they're focusing on the inhibitor chips, and that's all good. I just think emotionally dealing with betrayal is a little bit stronger of a theme than what they're doing, but not bad or wrong or anything, just that's the story. But I also agree that this is kind of I think the next 8 episodes are going to be like, maybe not sprint kind of pace, but I think, this is kind of I don't even know if I want to consider it a climax. I saw parallels to The Mandalorian season 2. And we've pointed these out before, and I think there's something to be said here of just, the storytelling is similar. I remember at the end of season 2 when Grogu gets captured, we have the same sort of thing that then leads into the climactic conclusion of season 2. And here we have Omega captured at episode 8 out of 16. So where the next 8 episodes are going to go, we don't really know, but there's I think there's more of a impetus leading the plot now, instead of just we need money, and so what's the next job? It's Omega rescuing Omega is going to be next on the list. So, and then just a couple other points. This episode, we also finally figure out the mysterious identity of the client who was paying for the bounty on Omega. Mm-hmm. And the reunion with Crosshair and Cad Bane were kind of the big three, if you will. So we'll discuss that more as we get into the recap. So we'll kind of just get on with that. Cool. So the episode starts off with us back on Camino, and Admiral Rampart is informed that Clone Force 99 is on Braca and sends Crosshair out with a squad to terminate them. And we can see that I'm blanking on Lamasu, the Kaminoan, who's the one in charge. You can tell he's nervous about that. Mm-hmm. He doesn't say anything to Admiral Rampart, but you can tell that he's definitely paying attention. Is
Lamasu the one in charge, or is that Nala Se? I always get them mixed up.
I guess I would have to Google that. Great question.
I know it's Lamasu and Nala Se, but
Lamasu is the male, and he's the male. He's the one.
Got it.
Yep.
Yeah, and he mentions the phrase contingency plan, mm-hmm. which to me, I'm wondering, is that, because I know, we've had this dialogue in the past episodes about how the Kaminoans need to kind of bounce back and have their contingency plan because the Empire now is not going to be wanting more clones created. So what are they going to do, right, in order mm-hmm. to survive, basically? But I'm also wondering, now that phrase has been brought up, it's like, what is their contingency plan? Because we know it has something to do with Omega, yep. But what is it, right? So that was very tantalizing.
Yeah, and this episode just sets up all those questions because we've talked about, and they've mentioned the whole idea of Jango's genetic material degrading. Mm-hmm. And if Omega is still a result of Jango's genetic material as one of the altered clones, it raises the question: is she somehow going to be the source for new genetic material, or there's all these, I guess, subtle hints too of the talents and the skills that Omega has. Whether she's force sensitive or not, we still don't really know. And all of that, I think, is tied up in this whole idea that obviously there's something unique about Omega, and what is it, and who is she, and what does the Kaminoans want, or how do they want to use her to? What is their contingency plan? As you said, that's the question.
Yeah, and we don't even know if Omega knows what is particularly special about her.
Mm-hmm. All that we know really is that, she knows a lot. And mm-hmm. because she was in the medical wing, so she knew about the inhibitor chips, and she knows that she doesn't have one. So even that is another aspect of her that is just interesting, and what's it mean? And I don't know. This is good storytelling, because this keeps you coming back for more answers.
Jango Fett has a daughter, and Boba has a sister.
Right?
Things we never thought we would see.
Oh, and this, I didn't even think about it. And of course, she never shows up in the movies, of course, but she could show up and say the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Because she would be, basically maybe a couple years younger than Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
That's a fun thought. I hadn't considered that, because I think in my own mental image of this, I keep making these series as sort of self-contained things, mm-hmm. and I sort of forget that we're in this realm of storytelling where they have that ability to connect them. And that's kind of exciting. So maybe a live action Cad Bane and a live action Omega is coming our way.
It's possible.
So yeah. Anyways, back to Braca. That's where the squad is. They and I love these scenes, the scenes between Wrecker and Omega. So this is the scene where Wrecker is teaching Omega how to disassemble a thermal detonator, and is being the tough teacher and yet not really putting her in danger by making it a smoke bomb instead of an actual thermal detonator.
Yeah, and we maybe get a hint as to why Wrecker's half of his face is kind of like injured.
Yeah.
Because he says that he didn't he say he failed his first test when he was training for this, so
yeah. I love the I guess I would call it a sibling relationship there.
Mm-hmm.
There's very clearly Wrecker is the older brother trying to show his younger sister, well, really what he loves, which is explosives, and teaching her all the ins and outs of it. So those kind of relationships portrayed are really, really good to see.
Yeah. And one of the things that I loved about this scene, rewatching it, was that I realized that they were kind of setting up that idea of, like, Wrecker is saying, oh, you didn't think that I would let you, train or practice or whatever with a live explosive, right? Like, I'm not crazy. He says that. And then later at the very end, basically, we have Crosshair putting them in danger, and Omega's like, Crosshair wouldn't do that, would he? Right? So it's kind of like setting up that idea of, family doesn't do that kind of thing, right? So it kind of makes that whole idea of, oh my gosh, he's actually doing this to them. He's actually going to incinerate them, right?
That is a great parallel to make, because I had noted that in my notes too, that Omega responded very sadly to point out that Crosshair was going to actually put them in danger. And yeah, that isn't what family and an authentic love would do. So they finish their dismantling of the smoke bomb, and they head back to the Jedi cruiser, but they are ambushed by some scrappers, and so Echo makes the case that they need to leave Braca because Rex warned them about these scrappers, and this wasn't going to be good. And Hunter, being the leader and the dad, still recognizes that they need to get out of debt with Sid. And so rather than just leaving, he sees the opportunity to scavenge just a little bit of the weapons to clear the debt with Sid, and even maybe make Sid sort of be in their debt. And so rather than just leave the planet, they decide to get some weapons, and he sends Tech off to restore power to the cruiser and get intel from the bridge, which also could be sold for money.
And before we get into like the nitty gritty of that, I just wanted to note how it says a lot about Echo that he stayed with Clone Force 99, even though he obviously, I think he, over the last couple of episodes, he said this twice, like, we're soldiers, like we belong in battle, right? And Hunter has gotten this idea, right, that there's something different now, right? Obviously, especially with Omega and their squad, but Echo seems like he misses Rex. It was cool to see Rex. He was always with Rex before, and now Rex is doing something else, and he's in another fight. And Echo's like, "We're soldiers, shouldn't we be with them?" Right? So I thought it was interesting that he expressed that feeling, but also says a lot about him, that he has shown his loyalty to this crew, this Clone Force, that he has stayed with them, that they are kind of a family unit. And so, yeah, I found that really interesting, and I'm curious to see how that kind of character development will continue as the episodes go on. Yeah.
That's a good point. It just follows with the themes that we've been talking about, but family in particular, and the clones, the Bad Batchers minus Echo, they all if you want to call them blood relatives, you could, because they're all the genetically altered clones, where Echo is a reg who just is then brought into this group.
Right.
And so that raises the whole idea that family is more than just blood. And we see that with Echo, and we experience that in our own lives too. I mean, we have our blood family, but then we have, the friends and the people around us that we consider family. And, and especially if you look at it through the Catholic lens, I mean, the body of Christ, we are all part of the same Christian family. And the loyalty that we have to each other and to Christ is what unites us. And we see that echoed in some way with Echo. He's sharing that as part of the family, and even though maybe he wanted or would have preferred to go off with Rex, he did choose to stay with Clone Force 99. And so they, and follow Hunter's lead. And he's right. He's the dad of the group. Happy Father's Day to Hunter, so to speak. So they go off to find weapons, and Wrecker is, of course, quickly becoming my favorite. He finds all the proton torpedoes, and I just put in my notes, he falls in love. He's
he kisses it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, he's just, he is who he is. He's really cool.
I think between him and Tech this episode, I was like, both of them were the comic relief. Like, when Wrecker's trying to get that Scrapper Guild member, and he's like, I've got this under control, and Tech hears that, and he's like, that's not comforting.
Yep.
So yeah.
Well, but then even later on, when they're in the Ion engine, Tech starts to say like the statistics, or how hot this can withstand. Yeah, the specs. Yeah. And Wrecker's just like, nobody cares. Keep going.
Keep walking.
But again, that echoes that theme, that like, that's exactly how like me and my brother would relate to one another. It's like, Greg, no, just nobody cares. I guess I would do that when he goes off into Star Trek. He can talk about Star Trek the way Tech can talk about a Republic cruiser. But similar, he would do the same thing to me, because that's a sibling relationship, which is really, really fun and rooted in love, but it's very tongue in cheek to each other. And so at this point, Omega heads up to the bridge to join Tech. Actually, before that, no, this was the point where Echo talks to Hunter about the fact that he would have preferred, I think, to follow Rex.
Mm-hmm.
And Hunter makes the point that they're on a different path than Rex, and yeah, Echo is following that. But I did at that point actually kind of wonder. So we assume, we don't really know yet, but we sort of assume that Rex is going off to start to build the rebellion, if you will, kind of be that grassroots kind of movement. And I just put in my notes, I said, I don't know, will the Bad Batch ultimately end up joining him and helping the rebellion? And that's not a question, of course, that we can answer right now, but it's an interesting thing to think about. I guess if you follow Rex's, or if you follow Echo's sort of inclination, is it would be yes, but Hunter might have some different priorities. So we'll see. And when Omega and Tech are on the bridge, the proximity alarm goes off, and of course that's when Crosshair and the Empire arrives. But that's also, then we have a scene there on Kamino, and that's where we finally learn that Lama Su is the one who ordered the bounty hunters to capture Omega and return her to Kamino. And so I wanted to just stop on this for just a minute. I know that we had discussed a number of possibilities of who that would be. Was this a surprise to you?
No, I actually, it was an automatic assumption in my mind that it was the Kaminoans. The one question that I have, though, in this particular situation, this particular scene, is with Nala Se, that she kind of looks like, I think Lama Su says, as long as they bring back the female, clone alive, then that we don't have to worry about anything else. And Nala Se kind of looks like she kind of tilts her head and her eyes almost look concerned. Like, I almost wonder, does she also want Clone Force 99 back alive as well? And does she have some other investment in them that we don't know about? Because we kind of have seen her help them. Mm-hmm. And I think we assumed, well, maybe she just helped them because they have Omega. But now I tend to wonder if there's something more, like, was she the one that somehow created Clone Force 99 or had a part in that process? I don't know, but it does make me wonder the way that they sort of played out the scene.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, Clone Force 99 in general, they are, I don't want to reduce them to just their efficiency and their, but they have skills and talents that the other clones don't have, which makes them just, and I don't know if if Nala Se is looking at them as just as kind of valuable property.
Assets.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think so, but they are more valuable, and especially
mm-hmm.
as a team, they are way more efficient
mm-hmm.
and able to do things that just the normal clones can't. But there's still obviously something unique about Omega. And I mean, Omega is still super young. So, I mean, even though what they want her for is something with her genetic makeup or something, not her skills or abilities per se, because she hasn't quite developed those yet. We'll see. But yeah, I also wasn't surprised by the reveal. That was kind of one of the more prominent theories out there, that that Lama Su was the one who was doing that. And I mean, at least financially, it makes sense. I mean, they would have been getting paid quite a bit for the clones, so they would have had the money to purchase the bounties or the bounty hunters that they ended up choosing, like Fennec and Cad Bane. So Crosshair then does arrive on the scene, and he knows that the Clone Force 99 is on the Republic cruiser. And as we were going through this scene, all I could think of was he's going to use the Clone Force 99's tactics against them. So like none of the twists that happened at all surprised me. So like just right off the bat, when Clone Force 99 is jamming the signal, it's like Crosshair's going to know that. Mm-hmm. And because he was part of the team, this is exactly how they would have thought. Right. And then, of course, he leads them into an ambush by knowing that they're going to tap the comms and then leading them to go where he wants them to go, and misdirection. And yeah, but I guess it surprised me that like Hunter didn't think about that, or didn't expect Crosshair to know that he would use their own tactics against them.
Right. I mean, we did see that in the Clone Wars, that whenever Rex knew that his intelligence or whatever was being used, that he would try to be unpredictable as well, and kind of go another way completely and be more creative. So that part did it did surprise me a little bit as well. I figured Hunter should be in that kind of line of thought. But at the same time, I think Hunter at this point is just very focused on survival. He has a lot on his mind. When you think about him as the leader of the crew, He's got, taking care of Omega, making sure the bounty hunters or nobody else, gets their hands on her. They want to make sure that they get fed, that they pay off their debt. They want to make sure that, everybody is safe. They want to make sure that, they want to try to get Crosshair back somehow and figure out how to do that. There's a lot that's going on in his mind. So, it was actually, we needed to see this, right? We needed to see that Crosshair was going to use their own strategy against them. But it was kind of sad, to watch it play out.
So what you're saying is that Hunter, as the dad, is worried about the mortgage and worried about feeding his kids and all.
Yes.
Well, but and rightly so. I think especially with Omega, he feels that, he needs to protect her in a way that he doesn't have to protect the other members of the squad.
Right, because they can fend for themselves, basically.
Right. And so that in general, that kind of a worry or a responsibility, could definitely lead him to kind of miss some of those things that are happening around him.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we finally get the reunion, which the episode is named at. They encounter Crosshair, and there's not a whole lot of dialogue that happens. So it's not a happy family reunion by any means. Crosshair calls them traitors, and that's why he has to take them out. And Hunter and Omega try to tell him to wake up and to recognize that he's just being controlled by the inhibitor chip. And I'm wondering if that will pay off maybe later down the road. But of course, in the moment, Crosshair completely ignores that and then just, continues to try to take them out. I guess I'm wondering if, would reason and that kind of a dialogue work on a clone who is acting out of an inhibitor chip? Like, could your reason counteract the inhibitor chip?
Right. Yeah. It almost seems like, so in Clone Wars, at the end of Clone Wars, we kind of saw how Rex was trying to fool all of the Regs, right? With their inhibitor chips active, by basically doing what he thought they wanted him to do. But the thing is that Crosshair's inhibitor chip was like turned up way more than the normal level, right? Somehow, however they do that, the severity or the strength of it. And so he's very much set on his mission, plus the fact that Crosshair already was, straight on target kind of guy, like get it done. And so his mission is get rid of these people, right? And he's just ready to do it. And that makes him even more dangerous. So even more difficult to, I think, talk him out of it. As much as I would love for that to happen, I do wonder if that would even happen without something happening to his inhibitor chip.
Maybe it's susceptible to heat.
Possibly.
I don't think so.
It seemed like when half his face was incinerated that he was still pretty much set on killing them. So I don't know.
It is an interesting question that is raised, though, is how they will attempt to save Crosshair, or if they are going to be able to save Crosshair.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to think a show like this, and being Star Wars in general, I think there is every reason to hope that Crosshair will be saved.
Right, but Star Wars also has a tragic element to it.
Yep. Yeah. So it could go either way, and But even that raises the stakes here, because it's not a guaranteed, he's going to come out smiling at the end of this and everything's going to be A-okay. There's the total possibility that he may not make it, and they might have to put him down, so to speak.
Or something else will.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yep. Yeah. So the reunion goes very poorly, and of course, Echo and Tech are immediately trying to plot their way out, and so they activate the cannons because they're on the artillery deck, and the cannons activate, which, since the ship is broken up, it causes absolute chaos, and the whole deck starts to break apart and fall, which allows them to escape for the moment. And that's where they then go into the ion engine chamber to try to escape the Republic cruiser ship.
By the way, Omega's archery skills are improving.
Yeah.
We saw her actually succeed.
Yeah.
So that's kind of neat. We're seeing development of her abilities.
That's why they moved on to dismantling thermal detonators. Mm-hmm. She must have been able to hit, the target 12 out of 12 times now instead of just 3 out of 12.
Yeah, maybe so.
That is a really cool weapon, though. I don't even know what it's called, but like a pulse bow or a light bow or whatever you want to call that. I've always had a liking of bow and arrows, so to kind of see that in Star Wars is pretty cool.
Yeah, and also I was thinking about her name being Omega. Mm-hmm. Is kind of like the shape of an Omega letter is almost like a bow in a way.
Yeah.
So
I bet that's more coincidental than intentional, but
probably so. I just thought that was neat in my head.
Yeah. So they do get into the ion engine, and Crosshair, of course, is able to know exactly that's where they're going to try to escape from. And so Crosshair sends his troopers up to the bridge to start up the main power and to start the ion engine itself, which would incinerate Clone Force 99 in that engine compartment. And that's then where we have that moment with Omega, where she's questioning whether Crosshair would actually do that.
And that really underlines her innocence, and she really, really knows that Crosshair, she believes in him still after all this time, even after she literally saw Crosshair give the order to aim at her to kill her just in the scene prior. And she's still like, no, he wouldn't incinerate us, would he? Like, it's so interesting to see her wrestle with that, with the reality of the situation. It's kind of like in that episode or that scene on the bridge where she's with Tech and she's asking him, like, what was the war like? Because she's kind of like, she's been with them for all this time, and it's her first experience with soldiers, like, in battle, and in these new experiences, and they talk about what things were like, in their glory days. And so it's almost like she's trying to understand, like, is war good? Is war bad? Is war cool? Is war not cool? Like, what is this thing? And so I just, in my mind, I'm looking at her, trying to kind of like figure all of this out. She's asking these questions and they mean something, they really mean more than what they let on. Very much like when kids are asking those questions, they're really trying to understand deeper things than they even can, really calculate, can really understand and grasp.
Mm-hmm. She could very well be acting as sort of a mirror for the squad, as this is what they've done, this is who they are, and I mean, on a human level, maybe war would make them jaded and forget the deeper realities of what's right and what's wrong. And Omega's the innocent one who's asking those questions, and pointing out, well, what was the war like, and getting at the heart of, like, is war good or is war bad, or it's not. I mean, Tech's response was very Tech. It's just a bunch of missions and procedures, and you go on from one to the next. But at the core, what is it? I mean, and I think she also tends to be the perspective that we as the audience are sort of seeing this too, because she's able to kind of point out those things to us as well. And one of the things that she points out, which is just it's a Star Wars theme, but it's just a human theme too, is that, you know, no matter how bad someone is, that we are made in the image and likeness of God. So, I mean, so there's always hope for redemption, and there's always, you know, an aspect of us that is good because we were made good by God, even if we've chosen to live a life contrary to that. But there's always hope for redemption. So even as she is looking at Crosshair and sort of always knowing that there's still that good in him, you know, I think that's helpful for us, because it's easy to just put the villain label on Crosshair and then just kind of leave it at that and sort of forget that there's a hope for redemption. There's good in him. And of course, you know, we see this elsewhere too. And of course, Darth Vader would be the primary one, where Luke is able to do that in episode 6 and find the good in him and bring him back.
Yeah.
So lots of good stuff there. Crosshair, though, in his inhibitor chip state, is going to have his troopers light the ion engine and incinerate Clone Force 99. And Clone Force 99 has the dangerous, but the only idea that they can come up with is use the explosives that they've scavenged to blow apart the engine, so that they would break free of it and fall into the wreckage, but it would prevent them from dying, essentially. And so that's exactly what they do. They're able to blow apart that engine. And as the engine lights and ignites, that's where it does hit Crosshair.
Yeah, he kind of gets a taste of his own medicine in a way.
Yeah, and I guess it was unclear. I mean, the extent of the damage. You know, at the end of the episode, he's sort of wrapped in bandages, but. You know, I'm wondering, is this going to be like, is his face going to be disfigured like Wrecker's, you know, to some degree, or what's going on? And whether or not has that made an impact on him at all, or is he just going to be even more gung-ho to track down Clone Force 99 and take him out?
Yeah.
So, but the episode is still, coming to the climax here. Clone Force 99 is split. Hunter and Omega are together, and then Tech, Wrecker, and Echo are separated from them. And Hunter and Omega are able to get to the Marauder, their ship, and all the troopers that were sent from Crosshair have been taken out, which is very eerie and unexpected. And of course, the reason for that is camera pans up and we see Cad Bane on the scene.
And Angela shouts on the couch, and we hear the awesome Kevin Kiner music with down to the rattlesnake sound, right? Just very Old West, good, bad, and ugly.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even his look is that way. He's got the hat. Yeah. I mean, he's got the look. Yeah, this was, for me, it was unexpected. I should have expected it after hearing that Lama Su was going to continue to pursue this. And I guess I'm going to throw it to you, Angela, because Cad Bane is a character that I know, but it's not a character that I know well. So,
right.
You know, give us a little bit of a background on why he's such why he's such a prominent bounty hunter, I guess, and was used here.
Yeah, well, yeah, you make a good point that we could have predicted this, right? Mm-hmm. If Lama Su was going to hire somebody at this time in what we know of Star Wars timeline, that Cad Bane would have been your guy. He would have been the guy, because Cad Bane essentially was, number one, he was the apprentice of Jango Fett. And when Jango died on Geonosis, then Cad Bane was the lead bounty hunter, essentially, the big ticket bounty hunter in the galaxy. And Cad ended up through Clone Wars and through comics, we see that he ended up working for Darth Sidious. He worked for Darth Maul. He worked for Darth Tyrannus, Dooku. Okay. He did some jobs for the Hutts as well. So one of the things that I don't know if a lot of people know about this, the background of Cad Bane actually comes from George Lucas. So we all know that George loved the Old West, and we see the Old West so much in Star Wars. And, one of the iconic Western movies is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Well, Cad Bane actually, according to Dave Filoni, when Dave was doing some research in the old scripts, the original scripts for the original trilogy of Star Wars, he found that Cad Bane's character was written in the original trilogy, based off of, inspired by Angel Eyes, who is the bad character in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And so this, gunslinger with this big hat, and he obviously didn't show up in the original trilogy, but George was able to bring him into the Clone Wars. And so one of the cool things that we learn in a couple of Star Wars celebrations, 2015, I think, and 2017, was that, so we know that at one point Clone Wars was canceled, right? And there were some unfinished story arcs with Cad Bane and Boba Fett to kind of show their relationship with each other, because Cad Bane, at some point, we don't really get it fleshed out, but at some point Cad Bane ends up becoming the apprentice of Boba as kind of a favor for Boba and, Jango Fett. And so in the end of this arc, basically we would have learned it was going to be a 4 episode arc that Cad and Boba go out to Tatooine, and they try to rescue this child from the Tusken Raiders. And then in 2017 Star Wars Celebration, we learned that Cad and Boba end up having this gunsling, basically this shootout, where Cad actually gives Boba his dent on his helmet. So that's where cool. the characteristic dent on the helmet comes from. But we never found out in that unfinished, basically, animation, what happened to Cad Bane. So it was really cool to be able to watch this particular scene, because it reminded me so much of that never before released until 2017 shootout between Cad and Boba. I mean, it was almost like shot for shot from my memory. And so to be able to see that in a new context between him and Hunter, it made me think about the idea that Boba is still out there, that this is Boba's sister, that, are we going to see Boba in Bad Batch? Because I mean, is Boba going to try to go after, like, how many bounty hunters did Lama Su hire to try to ensure that they get Omega back, right? Like, we know Fennec is out there, but Fennec is pretty new, right, at this point in her career. So they're like, let's just put Cad Bane on it. And then are they like, let's put Boba on it too? I mean, he's probably with Oris Thing, or, what's going on there. So all of those, crazy theories, I think, are probably out there in the Star Wars fan world and discussions and everything. But that is really exciting to me, because even if we don't see Boba now, it would make a lot of sense that we see Boba and Cad and possibly Omega down the line, right? Exactly what you said at the beginning of our podcast. So it all kind of ties together. right? And
It's
so
all connected.
Cad is really a pivotal character for all of this, but then also for the end of the I guess the Republic, because Cad was one of the number one bounty hunters because he knew how to fight the Jedi. He was really good at fighting the Jedi. He had all the tricks, the tools that he needed. He had the rocket boots to kind of fly with the Jedi. He had the rope to kind of, tie them up. And he had all kinds of his breathing tubes. So his breathing tubes are not giving him any oxygen like into his face. It's actually directly to his lungs because he worked with so many Sith Lords. In case they wanted to force choke him, they would just go straight to the oxygen would just go straight to his lungs. So he's like really prepared.
Wow. Yeah.
And he actually ends up supplying the plans to the guy that wants to bomb the Jedi Temple. And so he's kind of like, he's all involved in all these things.
Wow. There's more to him than I ever realized.
That's why I like him so much. He's so cool.
Yeah, well, and I'm pretty sure maybe Tamara Morrison had mentioned, I don't know if this is officially confirmed or not, but the Book of Boba Fett was going to go back in time as well and tell stories of Boba. So this could be in this realm of storytelling. I don't know how far back they're going to go, but it sounded like at least like to see what he was going to be doing around The Empire Strikes Back, but maybe they'll go back a little bit more. So
yeah, it would be really neat even to just see a cut scene, of Boba remembering when he was being apprenticed by Cad Bane. That would be awesome. Yep.
So would I be correct in assuming that you were not surprised that Cad Bane won the shootout with Hunter?
No, I wasn't. I was devastated to see Hunter with, that chest plate. But at the same time, he, the fastest gunslinger in the galaxy in a way is Cad Bane. I mean, he's won so many fights against the Jedi, Obi-Wan Kenobi being his number one adversary. So yeah, I wasn't surprised at all.
Okay. Cause I didn't know enough about Cad Bane, and it shocked me when Hunter got hit, cause it's Hunter. And they're
I think just the emotional impact of seeing Hunter on the ground like that. That still dropped my jaw. I was still.
The other really cool cinematography thing that they did there was when Hunter awakes, the whole scene is filmed as if like it's in Hunter's perspective through his visor, which added an urgency to the whole situation, and just you were Hunter, not just watching Hunter, and I really liked that.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing emotionally to do that. I don't know whose idea that was, but I want to give him a big high five over the podcast airwaves, because you're exactly right. That's what it did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and of course that's basically where then the episode ends. Hunter is adamant that they have to go find her, Omega, and of course Crosshair is bandaged up and on the hunt to find Clone Force 99. So there's a couple chases going on at the same time, and that was an effective cliffhanger.
Yes.
So,
it was.
Like I said, I think that we're just gonna ramp up from here on out. So I expect next week to be very fast paced.
Yeah. I mean, where are we going to be next week? Are we going to be somewhere in space with, immediately after this episode with them trying to figure out where to go, what to do? How are they going to get their information? Are they going to go back to Camino to try to get information?
But they also don't even have a context to think that the Kaminoans would be the ones sending the bounty. I I bet they would have to go back to Sid, who might connect them to, I don't know, some sort of information.
Right.
But yeah, because Cad Bane didn't say who he or who hired him, and neither did Fennec. And
they could go back to Rex and see if Rex knows anything too.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, I mean, they are being chased by Crosshair, so it's not like they can't just dilly-daddle and not keep moving. Right. So, yeah, there's a lot of potential in where this will go, and I don't even have a guess on where it's going to go.
That's the best part of it. There's so many possible options.
That's good storytelling, though, because then, I mean, it keeps you guessing. It shouldn't be super predictable. So we want to be surprised. I mean,
when they walked into that engine, I was like, okay, that engine's going to turn on somehow. That was kind of predictable, right? But now when it comes to, okay, where's the story going to go from here in the big picture? Yeah.
Right.
I really don't know. And I'm excited to find out.
And that's what's so awesome about these kind of stories is even though like we have the movies and we know like, okay, where the galaxy is going to go in the next 30 years, we don't know where the Bad Batch is going to go in the next 30 years. And that's what makes the story exciting, because we want to know what's going to happen to them just as much as anybody else. And we have no way of knowing by any of the other content that's out there what will happen.
Right.
Cool. Any other thoughts that you might have on this episode?
No, my mind is spinning now that we've been talking about all the possibilities. I'm very excited. I'm hoping, and I'm just hoping that Omega will make it through the end of the series, that she'll be alive at the end of this series, because I'm really hoping that we get to see a grown-up version of Omega down the line. And then maybe they won't even answer our questions about Omega by the end of the season. Maybe we'll still have questions about her, and then they will answer them in another context. But yeah, as we've been talking, I think it's likely that she might make an appearance in the Book of Boba Fett. That would be a natural progression. Throw Cad Bane in there, throw Omega. There's a Boba Fett connection. So that has me excited. Omega has definitely grown on me as a character, and I really am enjoying kind of her growth and journey. Yeah. And then I mean add 30 years to her life, and that would put you roughly in the time of the Book of Boba Fett. So we'll see. Okay. Well, I think then that concludes our discussion on this episode of The Bad Batch. And listeners, of course, we want to hear what you thought of this episode and what your take on all of our questions and what's coming next. And we'd like to hear what you think. So you can let us know various ways. You can comment on our Facebook and Twitter page. And you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/StarQuest Media and on Twitter at SQPN. And you can email us any feedback at starwars@sqpn.com. And we would like to take a moment, as always, to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Star Wars, including Charles G., Daniel R., Stephen G., Lisa V., and Victor L. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Wars and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Also, of course, make sure that you're subscribed to the show if you are not already. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, your favorite podcast player, or you can find us on the SQPN YouTube channel. Just make sure to hit that bell to get notifications of new episodes. And you can find all of our previous episodes by going to sqpn.com/Star Wars. And we will be back next week as we will see where the story goes and take a deeper look at episode 9 of The Bad Batch. So until next time, Angela Cialana, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Wars. My pleasure.
And once again, I'm Father Andrew Kinstetter. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Star Wars on StarQuest.